Welcome, viewers. I'm Randolph Johnson. My guest is Associate Dean and Director of U.S. Pluralism Programs at Hartwick College, Harry Bradshaw Matthews.
Yes.
Mr. Matthews,
Very nice to be
welcome.
here, Randolph.
And Mr. Matthews has been my guest on several occasions, and it's always a pleasure to have him here. So we're just going to jump right into his latest work. And what's new?
What's new? Well, I think the last time we had this discussion was about 2 years ago. I guess.
Yes.
About 2 years ago. And there have been a substantial amount of additional items and research and recognitions that we've gained or been involved with since then. Probably one of the most important things is that the USCT Institute at Hartwick College is now designated by the National Park Service as a research facility of the National Underground Railroad Network.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, and that is really extraordinary. And we gained that recognition because the USCT Institute is supported by the privately owned Matthews Collection for the Preservation of Freedom Journey Classics, which has been acknowledged by a number of preservation groups as a primary collection at this point.
Precisely.
My wife keeps a very close watch over it. No items disappear. And so I use those items when I'm working with students in my classes and when I'm doing research or presentations and that type of thing. And so I have items, I have a lot of the items now in storage. But I also bring them back and forth to Hartwick College, to the U.S. Pluralism Center as we're doing different things.
Where's the center now?
The center is in Bradshaw Hall, the main building on campus, administrative building on campus, at least one of them, the oldest building. And we are located on the first floor. Also located there is admissions and academic affairs, a few classrooms and other offices. Mm-hmm. But it's laid out very well now. It's a research center, and it looks like a research center.
Yes.
The way that it's put together, we have students who are members of the Harriet Tubman Mentoring Project. They're located in there, and then we have the Cato Freedom Project, just located in there, deals with Revolutionary War research. We have a nice little collection, portrait collection on the walls, and students now are in a better position to actually come in and do research, particularly family research. We have a new computer in the Harriet Tubman Project room where students can come in and use that on a regular basis. And they are doing that, and I'm really excited about it. Yeah.
And the students help precisely in your work.
Oh, absolutely. Students are involved in all aspects of my work. They shadow me. A number of them who work in the center have already taken my course, Revisiting Roots, so they have a good feeling about the anti-slavery movement and the Civil War. And then they come in and they're actually involved in doing things. The college refers to it as experiential education or experiential learning, where they're actually engaged in a structured learning experience outside of the classroom. And often they are able to take what they learn back into the classroom.
Of course.
Which is really good.
Of course. And you challenge them.
Yes.
And that's basically about how this research started to get you to this point so far.
Absolutely. I challenge them and they challenge me. For individuals who are not aware, we started this research when I first came to Hartwick in 1993. And I was trying to find if there was any local history dealing with people of African descent in this area as a means of having the area and the students connect with each other,
yes,
particularly Black and Hispanic students.
Mm-hmm.
And we started the process, and we were doing pretty well. And this one occasion, we was in Cooperstown at the county clerk's office, and we were looking for documents. And we were specifically looking for a black soldier of the Civil War, because I had already engaged myself in that at Gettysburg and Long Island and so on.
Yes.
And so the day had came to an end, and I was ready to leave. And one of the students said, "No, let's keep going." She didn't want to stop. They didn't want to stop. So we said, "Okay, we'll search a little bit longer," and we found a soldier, and that was it. And after that, we started developing strategies for research. And by 1997-98 academic year, we were ready to have the first symposium dealing with the USCT. Unknown to us was that it would become the first major statewide recognition of the USCT, particularly by identifying soldiers by name. And a proclamation was issued by Governor Pataki to that effect. And by that spring, we had a conference, historians and genealogists. We met at SUNY Oneonta and Hartwick College, and the organization, the USCT Institute, came out of that formally that following fall at Hartwick College. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey. So within a year or so, we'll be celebrating almost 15 years.
Extraordinary.
And it has been a true journey. We've emerged from being a local research effort to the point where we are now being recognized nationally. Just last year, actually, with the Civil War, I received a telephone call from the Library of Congress. They were informing me that the USCT Institute was being identified as one of 3 national resources for Black History Month, because the focus was on Civil War. So that's where we've come. We've gotten to that point now where we're really looking at the Civil War, but outside forces have urged us to expand our realm.
Yes.
From the Civil War back to the Revolutionary War, and now through World War II. And in order to accommodate that, it became necessary over the last 5 years or so for me to begin to expand the collection with primary materials from the Revolutionary War through World War II. Yeah, so I'm very pleased to say that I have some primary materials from the Revolutionary War through World War II now. Very pleased to say that. So when individuals come in, they see how far we've come. And actually, if you were to Google Black Revolutionary War soldiers, and then hit images, we have an image of Cato Freedom at the Butternut Cemetery. It pops right up. So we are now recognized as one of the authorities dealing with Black soldiers of the Revolutionary War.
That is very impressive.
Yes, I'm very pleased with that.
So how did something like that come about? Like, how did you
Cato Freedom?
dig that up? Yes.
Well, Cato Freedom, several years ago, we were looking for a project to engage in. I had a couple of students who had advanced from taking the course to having worked in the center, and they were now ready to take on the USCT internship, which is a accredited, self-directed, independent type of stuff, where they would learn the full range of what I'm engaged in. And so we chose a topic of Black Revolutionary War soldiers because Ms. Eckmeyer in Gilbertsville a few years earlier had made me aware that she saw a document or something talking about a Black Revolutionary War soldier. So we picked up on it. We started investigating it. We took him to Cooperstown. We did a little bit of research.
Right.
And we found a soldier in the materials named Cato Freedman. And then we went out to Burlington, where Butternut Cemetery is.
Yes.
And we found the tombstone, Freedman. So now we said, okay, we're going to cross-reference.
Intriguing.
We cross-referenced to see if there was any reference to that soldier in any of the national databases that was in Washington, particularly an organization that's pushing for a monument to honor black Civil War soldiers.
Okay.
And we went on there, and we found a freedman and a freedom. And we began to become intrigued because when we checked the records,
Yes.
there was this distortion in the facts relative to whether or not the tombstone had the correct name or whether or not freedom was the correct name.
Right. Here's where the plot thickens.
And this is where the plot thickens. And so we were able to get pension records. And the pension records was indicating that the soldier's name was Freedom, not Free Man. And so we started doing research. And what we found was that there was a document doing Cato Freedom's application process for a pension, in which a clerk in Cooperstown, in the same records, changed his name from Freedom to Free Man. So
Fascinating.
And then people picked up on Free Man when in fact it was Freedom. So we were able to make that correction. And then we was able to make a correction in terms of his date of death. What's recorded on his tombstone is not what matches in his official records. So we were able to find the right dates there. Mm-hmm. All of that now, by the way, is in a little booklet. The Freedom Journey and the Underground Railroad of the Upper Susquehanna River and Otsego County. And in this booklet, I have compiled several of our findings regarding the Freedom Journey or the anti-slavery movement, the Underground Railroad, and extending back to the Revolutionary War. So these records will not be lost again, hopefully.
Yes.
These are now documented. I have actual materials from tombstones and from pension records and newspapers and so on, and it's very intriguing.
Yes, it is.
Very intriguing to learn that all this has happened.
Right in this area.
Right in this area, and just a number of months ago now, we were able to document that there actually was an escape of a mother, 6 children, and a half-sister to Oneonta on the Underground Railroad. So that is now confirmed fact. We've been dealing with folklore for a long period of time, but we actually, I located the actual record in a local newspaper.
Were there any names involved?
That was the thing. They didn't have the names of the participants. They didn't have the names of the slaves.
Of course, and probably protecting them.
Right, protecting them. But because I've already been able to identify major players from the 1830s through through Civil War,
yes,
I was placed in a position where I could surmise that this probably involved Eliakim Reed Ford, for instance, who was a big free soil in this area, and there were several others in this area that was involved in anti-slavery activities. But now it's a confirmed fact now. People still talk about Route 7, the house on Route 7, but there's no evidence. And we have now been placed in a situation where when we talk in terms of these realities or stories, we have to have documented fact, because we now have been confirmed by the National Park Service as a research facility. The USCT Institute is in the U.S. Pluralism Center. But according to designations, the National Park Service have sites which are buildings in which that was involved in the actual escape of a former slave. And then they have facilities which are the scholarly sites for the study of the time period and so on. So, and that's what we are designated as, because we, the Matthews collection, privately owned Matthews collection, supports the work of the USCT. And the Park Service is fully aware of that, but they embrace it.
Yes.
They want us to help them now. I'm already starting to get calls from other sites asking for help in terms of identifying materials and that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'm able to, sometimes I'm not. But I say in most cases I'm able to at least provide clues and so on.
Yes.
So it works out pretty well.
Well, why don't we take a quick break here, and when we come back from a break, we'll talk a little bit about you reaching national park status.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Okay. Viewers, you're watching Focus on Oneonta. I'm Randolph Johnson, your host, and we'll be right back. Welcome, viewers, to Focus on Oneonta. I'm your host, Randolph Johnson, and this is the second part of my discussion with Harry Bradshaw Matthews. And before the break, we were talking about a little bit about how you became a teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And
yes.
how that path led you to where you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And for most individuals, when they're on their path for their college career, you know, they're not sure where they're gonna end up. But when you started out, you knew that you wanted to do family history.
Yes, that was the starting point. I was first introduced to family history before I entered school.
Right.
When I'm talking about the Civil War, people are not necessarily thinking in terms of blacks in the Civil War. They're thinking about soldiers of the Civil War who happens to be black, because they're coming from the same reference point of the history of the Civil War. And similarly, when you talk about music, there's a great engagement of people in music from different racial and ethnic groups because they're coming from the point of the music first.
Right.
And then the individual influences.
Right, and the experience. First.
Right, and experiences that's brought with the ethnic background. And so I learned that concept, and that's what led me to pluralism, too. Pluralism, unlike integration, pluralism talks about the coexistence of two or more groups in a common space interacting without either losing its identity. The concept of integration essentially is one in which the minority gives in to the majority in order to be accepted.
And becomes assimilated.
And become assimilated. I am not a person of assimilation. That is not my worldview. I think I would rather appreciate having discussions about the differences rather than trying to pretend they don't exist. And that has served me very well. And I'm glad that I was fortunate enough to have developed that mindset, because it definitely has served me very well.
Viewers, you're watching Focus on Oneonta. I'm Randolph Johnson, your host, and we'll be right back.